Welcome to this edition of Safety First. I'm your host, Tim Kelly, and today's edition, we're going to be talking about the Commonwealth Attorney's Forensic Camp. And joining us to lead everything off with the discussion is the Suffolk Commonwealth's Attorney, C. Phillips, Phil Ferguson. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Tim.
Well, let's talk about the camp. Where did the idea come from, and what is the general purpose of what you're trying to achieve through the camp?
The purpose of the camp is to try to help educate young people on forensic evidence and how we use forensic evidence both in the gathering of evidence and in the prosecution of criminal cases. It came about, and we were able to do it beginning in 2013 because Joan Turner came to our office from the Suffolk Police Department as our community outreach coordinator. While she was in the police department, Joan was actually the head of the forensic unit, so she had a lot of expertise in that area. And we have obviously criminal prosecutors or attorneys in our office, so we felt we could really get the best of both worlds by having Joan do the forensic camp where we do the gathering of evidence, but at the same time we bring in the attorneys from the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, so then the young people will learn how we actually use that evidence in a criminal prosecution.
Now, I know community outreach is certainly a big part of your office and also with the Sheriff's Department as well. And just talk about sort of the general thought about doing outreach programs, much like the one we're talking about today, coming through your office.
Well, let me say this. We have 25 different brochures that we have that are submitted and available to the public on different areas and topics. We have 12 different actual programs that we can go out into the community and present to civic groups, churches, or any group that might like to have such a program. And one of those that we have done here with the forensic unit is this is the newest one, and to my knowledge, I'm not aware of any other Commonwealth Attorney's Office that has put this type of program together.
Now, how important is it to talk to young people about some of the topics that you're covering in the camp through you and your staff, certainly, to reach them at this point and let them know kind of how the process works?
It's very important. In fact, what has been interesting thus far is a lot of the young people that are in these camps, as a result of what we're teaching them, have expressed an interest either in forensics or possibly being a lawyer. And I think these are things that start to get young people thinking in a positive way about their potential career choices in the future. Aside from that, just from a general educational standpoint, I think having this enables them to become better educated on some of the things that do go on in the criminal justice system and how cases are made. So I think from an educational standpoint, it's great. My philosophy has always been the more that we can do to help young people and educate them, the better citizens they will become, and it may help them make choices in life from a job standpoint or otherwise. And certainly it enhances their background and knowledge as they go through school or whatever, because otherwise they may not get this kind of opportunity because it is relatively specialized.
We're joined now by Joan Turner, Community Outreach Coordinator with the Commonwealth Attorney's Office here in Suffolk. And Joan, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Talking about the forensic camp, if you could, obviously your background led right into this camp, kind of come into creation. If you could talk a little bit about sort of your philosophy for how this camp came to be.
Sure. I used to be the CSI or the Forensic Unit Supervisor with the Suffolk Police Department. My role now is Community Outreach Coordinator with the Suffolk Commonwealth's Attorney's Office, and I've been in that role since June of last year. And so one of my goals was to have a forensics camp within the Commonwealth Attorney's Office because I know that youth in the community are interested in CSI because they see it on television, and I thought bringing the real life CSI to them, that would give them a better feel of what CSI technicians really do at a crime scene. In addition to that, I wanted to include the attorneys. So the attorneys actually came in and talked to the students about what kind of forensic evidence they will look for when they go to court.
Right.
And so we talked about robberies, assaults, and burglaries.
Now, what are some of the things that the people who participate in the camp, what opportunities do they have throughout the week? Because again, you're going half days throughout a whole week, so it's a very intensive camp. You got a lot of great information, but what's going on? Talk about kind of how the week flows.
Okay. The first day, the first couple of days are really a lot of PowerPoints about what CSI is about. What is the what is the actual definition of forensics?
Right.
And how can forensics assist the Commonwealth's attorney or any attorney on the innocence or guilt of a person? And so through those PowerPoint presentations, the students were able to ask a lot of questions that they've been meaning or wanting to ask because they see so much of it on television. We had 3 Commonwealth's attorneys to actually come into the classroom and talk with them on those 3 different crime scenes that they had this week, which was robbery, assault, and burglaries.
Now, of course, the age group is
12 to 15.
So really, you're reaching young people who are probably starting to think about possible careers and life decisions with regard to what I'm going to do with their future, what I'm going to do with my future. So obviously, this might play into it, and I know Mr. Ferguson had mentioned the fact that that might spark some interest in some of these young people, and whether you're coming to any particular of these camps, but you get tapped into something, you never know what it's going to turn into.
Correct. We, the question that I asked of them, would anybody in here would like to be a CSI when they grow up? There were hands. Would anybody like to be an attorney? There were hands. And then in addition to that, I asked, would anybody like to go into law enforcement? Whether it be being a police officer or work for the sheriff's office. And there were others that raised their hands. So out of the group, there were possibly a third from each category that said they would like to participate, or that would be their career when they grow up.
Yes. Now, what are some of the hands-on activities they get to do in the camp? Because I know there's some crime scene investigation things that go on once they get the, sort of the background, the thinking about what needs to be done, the purpose of it, and not only when it's gathered, but also how it's prosecuted when it gets down to that. And again, they get the hands-on experience there, don't they?
Correct. Yes, they do. Their crime scene today, each group, each team has about 10 in each team. So we have a little over 30 kids that's participating. And the crime scene has been placed in front of them. Now they have to know what kind of photographs to take at each crime scene, what kind of photographs to take of each piece of evidence at that crime scene, note-taking and measuring, because they have to put those measurements and that evidence into a sketch. And so they need to know that 12 inches equal a foot. They need to know, they are going to learn a lot about science and math for this week. And so I think that what they've done so far today, they've applied what they learned for the past 3 days into those crime scenes, and they've done very, very well.
Okay. Now, of course, if someone is watching this program and would like more information about the forensic camp, it's a good contact. I assume that might be you.
Yes. My number is 757-514-4379.
Okay. We're joined now by Deputy Debbie Callis with the Suffolk Sheriff's Department. Debbie, thanks for being with us.
You're welcome.
Here to talk again about the forensic camp. If you could share with us the Sheriff's Department involvement in the camp and sort of what Sheriff Raleigh Isaacs and you are doing to help, educate these kids on what the forensic process is all about. And of course, you're talking specifically about
Child ID.
Child ID. So we want to fill us in a little bit about what y'all's approach has been for the camp.
What we do with all the camps is we provide a child ID program. Saying that, I guess a lot of people confuse it with IdentiKid. We bring out a computer, it's an inkless fingerprint process that allows each parent to have a identification card with the fingerprints of their children, as well, if it's possible, a voice recognition and a photograph that they update hopefully yearly. We always recommend that you do it about the same time you do school pictures.
And really, what's the age range that you really want to have that done? I mean,
honestly,
from when to when?
Honestly, there is. I have done 2-week-old babies to 84-year-old woman. There's absolutely no age. It's helpful all the time.
And of course, it's a great involvement with the Sheriff's Department to do community outreach and programs much like this one.
Absolutely.
And just talk about the importance of doing that from that perspective to kind of let people know, who y'all are, what you're doing, and provide a good services for the community.
Oh, absolutely. And we're available to do it. I do church functions. I do National Night Out events. Anything.
Okay.
If we're contacted about it, I respond.
And Debbie, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, how would they do that?
They call the Sheriff's Office. The number's 514-7840.
Okay.
And it's Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. But I respond and do events on Saturdays and Sundays and after hours as well.
Okay. Joined now by Austin Fay, who is a member of one of the 2013 Forensic Camp. And Austin, thanks for being with us.
Oh, no problem.
Talk about some of the things that y'all been doing this week.
Well, we learn a lot about crime scene investigation, and it's really educational, and it's a great experience. and you just have a blast with it.
So you really had a good time with the camp?
I did. I really did.
What would you say to someone if they were thinking about participating in one of the future camps? What would you say to encourage them to come on out and take part in it?
I would try to tell them how much fun you have in it. In the classes, you learn a lot that you would not learn in an average class or anything out there. So it's just really good experience.
Now, with what you've learned, has it maybe encouraged you to think about a career in one of the fields that they're talking about, a lawyer, CSI tech, or anything like that? Anything sparked an interest in you?
Well, I kind of had a job I already wanted to do,
Right.
which is the United States Military
Oh,
Air
okay.
Force.
Very nice.
Yeah.
We're joined now by Shakaya Bailey, who is a member of the Forensic Camp this year. And Shakaya, thanks for being with us today. Talk about some of the things that you've been learning in the camp. What are some of the things that really, you're like, that was really kind of cool?
Well, we was learning about how when they find a deceased person and they find just the bones, how they do the recreations of the body. And I thought that was really cool because after I saw the recreation, it was like she looked just like the recreation.
Mm-hmm.
And her aunt, they was like, that her aunt said she used to wear her hair the same way as they recreated her.
Right.
And we was learning about burglaries and assaults and things like that.
Now, what would you say if someone was thinking about participating in a future camp, to encourage them that, you know, look, you might really want to look at this camp and take part in it? What would you say to encourage them to maybe sign up?
I would say, like, this camp is on point. It's great, it's fun, awesome. You learn a lot of things in it. Like, it can really help you in your future.
Mm-hmm. Now, is anything that you've learned during the week, or any of the, I know you've had, you know, people from the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, you have people from the Sheriff's Department, CSI people, all kind of different people giving presentations and talking to you about it. Anything that you're going, that might be an interesting career?
Yeah, I think I would like to be a CSI attorney.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun. Like, they talk to us about a lot of things, like what they do and how they go to court and testify and protest and all that.
Right.
Yes, very
Okay.
cool.
If you'd like more information on the Commonwealth's Attorney Forensic Camp, contact Joan Turner at 514-4379.